Are we going live? All right, we kind of paused there. So I'll go ahead, and the organizational meeting of the Montoursville Board of School Directors will come to order at 7:06 on Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. I'm going to go ahead and take a roll. Mr. Albert is not on yet this evening. Mr. Badger?
Here.
Dr. Berry?
Here.
Dr. LaCrone?
Here.
Dr. Mathers?
Here.
Mr. Schimmel?
Here.
Mr. Snell?
Here.
Mr. Ulmer?
Here.
And Mr. Young?
Here.
Okay. The first order of business is to elect a temporary president to chair the organizational meeting. May I have nominations for a temporary president, and this can only be the holdover members.
I nominate Dottie
I nominate
Mathers as
Dottie
President Pro Tem.
Mathers.
Do I have any further
I second the
nominations?
motion.
Okay, I am not hearing any other nominations. And if there's no objections, I will declare the nominations closed. We will vote by voice vote, with each member stating the name of the nominee of their choice, and only holdover members vote. Dr. Beery?
This is for the temporary president.
Yes.
Dottie Mathers.
Dr. Mathers?
Yep.
Mr. Schimmel?
I cast a vote for Dr. Mathers.
Mr. Snell?
Dr. Mathers.
And Mr. Ulmer?
Dottie Mathers.
The vote is in favor of Dr. Mathers, who is now the temporary president. I turn the chair over to her.
Thank you. Our incoming members this evening are Mr. Albert, Mr. Badger, Mr. LaCrone, and Mr. Young. The secretary will now please read their certificates of election.
The Lycoming County Board of Elections Certificate of Election. We, the undersigned members of the County Board of Elections of Lycoming County, hereby certify that after tabulation, the votes cast at the November 2nd, 2021 municipal election in Lycoming County appears that David J. Young was duly elected to the officer of school director, 4-year term in and for the election district of Montoursville Area School District Region 2. Lycoming County Board of Elections Certification of Election. We, the undersigned members of the County Board of Elections of Lycoming County, hereby certify that after tabulating the votes casted at the November 2nd, 2021 municipal election in Lycoming County, it appears that Joseph B. LaCrone was duly elected to the office of school director, 4-year term in and for the election district of Montoursville Area School District Region 3. Lycoming County Board of Elections Certificate of Election. We, the undersigned members of the County Board of Elections of Lycoming County hereby certify that after tabulating the votes cast at the November 2nd, 2021 municipal election in Lycoming County, it appears that Todd A. Badger was duly elected to the office of school director, 4-year term in and for the election district of Montoursville Area School District Region 3. Lycoming County Board of Elections Certificate of Election. We, the undersigned members of the County Board of Elections of Lycoming County, hereby certify that after tabulating the votes cast at the November 2nd, 2021 municipal election in Lycoming County, it appears that Danny I. Albert was duly elected to the office of school director, 4-year term in and for the election district of Montoursville Area School District Region 1. And that is all the certificate of elections.
Congratulations to all. The oath of office to the newly elected or re-elected members was previously administered prior to the meeting. You will all have a list of all the qualified, legally elected or appointed members of the Board of School Directors for the year now beginning. Does anyone see any errors or inaccuracies on the list?
Oh, Dottie, my last name was spelled incorrectly on the list. I think I emailed about that.
We got it corrected. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bryn.
Does anyone desire that the list be read aloud? Okay, I will now open the floor to nominations for the office of president.
I nominate Dave Schimmel.
Dave Schimmel has been nominated for president. Are there any other nominations for the office of president?
I'd nominate David Young.
David Young has been nominated for the office of president. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, and if there is no objection, I declare the nominations closed. The secretary will call the roll and each member will cast their vote when their name is called by stating the name of the candidate of their choice. The secretary will record the votes. Does everyone understand the procedure? Seeing
Yes.
no, okay.
Yes,
Yes.
Mrs. Secretary, please call the roll.
Do not see Mr. Albert yet, so we will move on to Mr. Badger.
David Schimmel,
Dr. Beery,
Dave Schimmel,
Dr. LaCrone,
Dave Schimmel.
Dr. Mathers,
Dave Schimmel,
Mr. Schimmel,
Myself.
Mr. Snell,
Dave Young.
Mr. Almer,
Dave Schimmel.
and Mr. Young.
Dave Schimmel.
the vote is unanimous in favor of Dave Schimmel, and he has been elected president. Congratulations.
It
I will
wasn't
now
unanimous.
open the floor to
Dr.
nominate.
Mathers.
Dr. Mathers,
It was-
you have a correction. It was not unanimous.
Excuse me, I apologize. Okay. I was reading a script. Sorry about that.
7-1.
The vote is in favor of Mr. Schimmel by 7-1. So he has been elected president. Congratulations.
President Biden did the same thing.
I will now open the floor to nominations for the office of vice president.
David Young.
Nominate Dottie Mathers.
So David Young and Dottie Mathers have been nominated for vice president. Are there any further nominations for the office of vice president? Seeing none, and if there's no objection, I declare the nominations closed. As we did before, we will vote on the candidates for the vice president by voice vote. Please state the name of your candidate of choice as the secretary calls the roll.
I see Mr. Albert has joined us, so I will start with Mr. Albert.
Hey, there you go. Dave Young,
Mr. Badger,
Dottie Mathers,
Dr. Beery,
Dottie Mathers,
Dr. LaCrone,
Dottie Mathers.
Dr. Mathers,
I'll accept.
Mr. Schimmel,
Dottie Mathers.
Mr. Snell,
David Young,
Mr. Ulmer,
Dottie Mathers,
Mr. Young.
David Young.
Okay, so the vote is in favor of Dottie Mathers by 6-3. Did I count that right?
Yes.
So I have been reelected vice president. A treasurer shall be nominated and elected to serve the remainder of the current term until June 30th, 2022. I will now open the floor for nominations for the officer of treasurer.
Nominate Dale Ulmer.
Dale Ulmer has been nominated for the office of treasurer. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, and if there is no objection, I declare the nominations closed. As we did before, we will vote on the candidates for treasurer by voice vote. Please state the name of your candidate of choice as the secretary calls the roll.
Mr. Albert,
Dale Ulmer,
Mr. Badger,
Dale Ulmer,
Dr. Beery,
Dale Ulmer,
Dr. LaCrone,
Dale Ulmer.
Dr. Mathers,
Dale Ulmer,
Mr. Schimmel,
Dale Ulmer.
Mr. Snell,
Dale Ulmer,
Mr. Ulmer,
I will accept.
and Mr. Young.
Dale Ulmer.
okay, the vote is unanimous in favor of Dale Ulmer, and he has been elected treasurer. Congratulations. I will now turn the meeting over to our board president, Mr. Schimmel.
Board, thank you. And I will do all I can to ensure that we as a board operate as effectively and functionally as possible, and that all of our voices are weighted, given consideration and weight as we do the work we're called to do here. The next item, which I didn't expect I was going to do, is the designation of the newspaper of general circulation. And if the secretary give us a little guidance on that, I guess we just need to have a nomination for a newspaper or recognize it. How does that work?
We just have to state that all of our advertisements will be placed in the Williamsport Sun Gazette.
Okay. Is somebody willing to make that motion?
I will make that motion. Place
Yeah.
all of our advertisements in the Sun Gazette.
Your second.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Then item 9, for the meeting place, time, and dates for 2022, establishing a schedule for that. You know, historically, we have met twice a month, except for the months of July and August, June, July, and August, I believe. And then in November and December, we only meet once. Of course, we can call special meetings at any time. The first meeting has typically been on the second Tuesday, and it's the regular session. On the fourth Tuesday, we typically have work sessions, which we know do turn into action item evenings. So with that format, I guess, for the meeting days, is that satisfactory to the board to, set those meeting days? And then the next item would be the time. Typically, we have started at 7 o'clock or thereabouts. And the place then, we had a special advertisement put in for the meetings that basically reflects that if there is universal masking, we would meet virtually. And if when the masking order is gone, then we'll meet in person. I don't know if that's the flavor of the board to continue with that approach or not. So we can take it a meeting at a time as far as the place. Although I don't think, I don't know if we can do that. Secretary, do we have to designate a place or places? Maybe the solicitor could give.
We should designate, it'll either be one or the other, like it'll be at the 700 Mulberry Street address, or it would be via Zoom. So if the board wishes to do so.
Maybe we should be hopeful that the masking will be gone and we can be hopeful to meet in person in 2022. We can always, we can change that by advertisement if necessary. So,
Yeah, Mr. President,
yes.
you are required to establish a schedule of regular meetings specifying the time and the place. So I would recommend that you do so with the normal place that you expect to have live board meetings. And you can always put in with the caveat that such meetings may be held via Zoom under certain circumstances, which will be notified. Because you do have to put out a schedule for the public, and it should list a place so that you don't have to keep putting out the place each time.
Okay, let me try to formulate some verbiage for us then. How about someone would make a motion that the meeting place of the Montours Area School Board of Directors shall be the high school at 700 Mulberry Street, and the time shall be 7 o'clock, and the dates shall be the second Tuesday of each month, except June, July, and August, and November and December. And then let me reel that back in. The regular meetings will be all of the 12 months at the second Tuesday at 7 o'clock. The work sessions will be the fourth Tuesday of the month, excluding those 5 months that I mentioned. And the meeting place is subject to change pending circumstances. So does
Mr.
that?
Schimmel, are you going to get input from the rest of the board members on this before we vote?
We need, I'm formulating a motion. We need a motion, we need a second, and then we need discussion on it. And if we need to amend it, we can do that. So we have to have a motion and a second, and then we can discuss it and see how we want it to look.
I'll make that motion, Dave, to hold the meetings as stated.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, now we can go for discussion on iterations of that motion.
All right, I'd like to amend that we have our meetings in person and Zoom. Starting on the first meeting on January 11th. We need to get back to in-person meetings.
I agree with the sentiment, Ron. The question I have
thought we
is,
didn't have the
when you say Zoom, that can mean a couple of things. Now, currently, we are live streaming our meetings and the public does see them. And of course, we have this method of having input. Typically, when we've been in person, we've only streamed them and there hasn't been the feedback. I guess I would need a little feedback from our technology people on what it will take to make that functional. I don't know whether we could have that functional by the January meeting.
Dave,
Yes.
as a point of order, if there's anybody who's requesting an amendment to the motion, it has to be acceptable to the maker of the motion and the person who seconded it. Just so, regardless of the substance of it, if it is to be addressed, it needs to be done in that way before a vote is taken.
So I made that motion. Well, actually, I didn't make the motion. I got the verbiage. Dottie made the motion. So we have a friendly amendment to word it so that they're in person, but we have I think Ron is referring to an interactive Zoom.
Okay,
That's
just
definitely,
to start here, I will not amend my motion. I think the vote to meet in person in January is on our agenda for tonight to discuss. So I'm not going to amend this motion.
Friendly amendments not been accepted. Other board discussion on this? Okay, then, hearing no additional questions or discussion, then all in favor of the motion for the meeting, place, date, time, and dates, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I don't know how many, let's, solicitor, I think I need to reel that back in and do a voice vote because I'm not sure whether I'm hearing votes.
Yeah, the difficulty with being on Zoom is that everybody talks at the same time and you can't hear it. So I would do a voice vote by roll call if that's possible.
Let's do that. Secretary, would you call the roll?
Certainly, Mr. President. Mr. Albert,
Yes.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Dr. Beery,
Yeah, I like the idea of both so that people who can't attend can participate, but my understanding is we don't have that technology. So yes.
Dr. LaCrone,
Yes.
Dr. Mathers,
Yes.
Mr. Schimmel,
Yes.
Mr. Snell,
I'm going to vote no because we've been talking about that technology for months and months and months now. We should have that technology. So my vote is no.
Mr. Ulmer,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Okay, that I believe concludes our reorganizational agenda items, and I'd entertain a motion to adjourn, and from there we don't have to log off and log back in. We can move right on then to the regular meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this organizational meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? I didn't think so. So this meeting is adjourned. We'll move now to the regular meeting of the Montoursville Area Board of School Directors on this Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. The start time for this meeting is 7:30 p.m. And allow me to grab my agenda. So Madam Secretary, would you call the roll for this regular meeting?
Certainly, Mr. President. Mr. Albert,
Here.
Mr. Badger,
Here.
Dr. Beery,
Here.
Dr. LaCrone,
Here.
Dr. Mathers,
Here,
Mr. Schimmel.
Here.
Mr. Snow,
Here.
Mr. Ulmer,
Here.
and Mr. Young.
Here.
Moving on with our agenda then, are there any recognitions or presentations that administration would wish to offer at this time? Okay, hearing.
You want
nothing.
those now or do you want those during our reports?
Well, the report's fine. I didn't know if there's anything in particular that might be, pertinent to share now, but for your reports, that's fine. Student representatives, now we'll move on to you. Anything for the board and the public tonight?
Mr. Schimmel, is the pastor here?
That's coming next. We'll get to that. I'm not sure, but that's in the prior presentation section. We're right now in section 1A, B, and C. So we'll get to that momentarily. All right, so nothing from the student representatives. Now we'll move on to approval of the meeting minutes, and I have minutes from Tuesday, November 9 meeting. And have you had a chance to review?
Sorry, my internet cut out. I have like two things real quick.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Real quick. The improv troupe is going to be having their second show of the 2021 to 2022 school year. It will be December 17th at 7 p.m. It'll be about an hour and a half. The band and choir of Matursville High School will be having their combined concert on Monday, December 20th. I don't know the time yet. Philharmonic, the a cappella group of the choir, recently took a trip to, I don't remember where, but they basically caroled.
I thought they went to Lighter.
Probably, I don't remember.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No problem. Thank you for that. Okay, and we'll move on now to the reading of the minutes and the approval of the November 9th, Tuesday, November 9th meeting. Any corrections to those minutes? And if not, do we have a motion to approve those?
motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, and no discussion of any kind? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, now we'll move to the prior presentation, and it's at this time then for that first prior presentation is Pastor Joseph Shimko from Faith United Methodist. And I will ask let's see if the pastor is there. I see his name. Could you move Pastor Shimko from attendee into the whatever our window is called as a participant, I guess, as a panel member, so we can see him.
Can you see me or hear me?
Can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the participation of the Lowestoft Valley and Lighter Elementary Schools. I don't, here, let me start my video here. There we go. For their participation with our Thanksgiving baskets at Faith Church. Together, we help provide meals for 30 families in the Montoursville area over Thanksgiving. And we're extremely grateful for your partnership in serving the needs of our community. So thank you for partnering with us. So let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for your grace. It's truly undeserved. It's certainly not based on our merit, since we have nothing to offer you but ourselves. But you have blessed us, your children, with the gift of life, and we rejoice in what Jesus has done for us. He has forgiven us of our sins and saved our souls. Help us to be grace givers in order to demonstrate your grace. You are the great giver. Help us to follow your lead in this season of Christmas. Just as your Son humbled himself, may we do the same, to serve and to give ourselves to others. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Our next item then is a special student recognition for Gabrielle Shear. Gabrielle is an 11th grader at the high school, and Gabby placed 11th out of 252 runners in the PIAA cross country championships that were held in Hershey on November 6th. And that effort qualified her as a
I think we lost Dave. I will wait a few minutes to see if he comes back in. Dave is signing back in, so it should just be a moment.
Well, folks, I have no idea what happened there on that one. I think I'm the only one that got froze up, and I don't even know whether you heard my presentation regarding Gabby. Did you hear that? Oh my, okay.
No.
Host, don't try sharing that picture. I think that maybe it was what did it. I just don't know for sure. Did you see Gabby's picture? Did that come
Yes.
up? Okay,
Yes.
when that came up, maybe it was a conflict with, I don't know. All I know is I froze up, and that's too bad. All right. let's hold off on the picture then, the host, and let me just go through this again. Okay, so this is regarding Gabrielle Shear. She is an 11th grader at the high school. She placed 11th out of 252 runners in the PIAA cross country championships that were held in Hershey on November 6th. And this effort qualified her as a state medalist. This is a tremendous accomplishment for her and the school's cross country program. And Gabby's achievement, though, has some historic value for MAHS. Nathan Kimmel did some research on past achievements by cross country runners and had discovered that she was the first female cross country state medalist in Montoursville High School's history. I think most of us were unaware of that, and perhaps many are unaware that she was even a state medalist. I think the newspaper had like one little line somewhere that would have got lost in some other sporting news. So at this time, I'd like to recognize Gabby Shear for this tremendous accomplishment and the track program. And we look forward to seeing what Gabby will be doing as a senior. And this also holds a little special meaning for me too, as she was a middle schooler. Gabby was, I was her youth group leader and Sunday school teacher, so that's special for me. Okay, and I think with all that glitch there, we'll buy back about, let's call it 6 minutes of time. I think I don't know how long I was gone, but we'll call 6 minutes. So, all right. So now we move on to item 3C, prior presentation. This is a general discussion by the board regarding the district's health and safety plan. As we move forward, we have to have this revisited every 6 months and reapproved, and basically seeking some thoughts that we can pass on to the health and safety committee as they revamp or revise or whatever they may be doing, consider doing to the plan. It's our time to just offer our thoughts on it and what we would like to see them evaluate. So we would make some referrals to them, have them consider it, and then they would bring back the plan to us in January for that 6-month approval, reapproval. So board, open it up for discussion on your thoughts on our plan at this point.
Mr. Schimmel, the first thing I want to bring up is I've had somebody hack into my email account and take out an email regarding the health and safety plan, or regarding the health and safety committee. That needs to be looked into. I don't know if any other board member has had that happen to them, but if we have people going into our email and deleting emails, that's a problem.
Yes, it would.
Ron, are you talking about your district email?
Yes, I am.
That needs to be brought to me as soon as you're aware of it. I have not been told about that, and that needs to be brought to me immediately.
Well, I just found that out today, Sebastian.
Okay, then we'll discuss that then.
And with me, Sebastian, it occurred to me also.
Okay, yeah, let me know that as much information as you have.
Yeah, and definitely. And if you have a sense of what date the email might have had to, perhaps that would help. So, okay. All right, then along with that, any thoughts on the plan as you see it? Is there some things that you might like to have the committee evaluate and bring back to us?
I think we need to get back to what the health and safety plan says as of right now, where masks are optional.
Well, that's an item we don't need to change, but it is being changed for us. So we're stuck unless we want to defy a court order. I just don't see any way around that.
Well, I noticed that other school districts in like Cumming County and beyond have found ways around that.
Well, they've chosen to defy a court order. That's all. So it's that simple. So.
And I haven't seen any repercussions from it.
True. And you know what? There may not be, but you know what? If we're a country of laws, we're not a country of based on the rule of man, the rule of kings. We're a country based on constitutional law and all the laws that descend from it, all the regulations that legally descend from our Constitution. And we took a pledge to abide by our Constitution and those laws that follow. And that's all we're doing. We're abiding by our court system, and what the court has said is in effect and has the full effect of law, even though it's not a regulation, even though it's not a statute. The court was clear that it has the effect of law, and we have to abide by it, or we can defy it, and that's what they're doing. They're defying it, and I don't know how else you can. I don't know what other picture you can paint. I think we've chosen that we have to comply as law-abiding citizens. So I don't know what else to say. But in terms of other elements of the plan, folks, any thoughts?
I think it seems like there's a lot of the whole close contact quarantine issue, and I think everything needs to be examined and at least realigned about, you know, do vaccines get you out of the quarantine or make it shorter? Does a previous positive COVID test, and if so, how many days prior is the antibody? So I think we at least need to make sure that our practices are aligned and that we're examining the quarantine procedures.
Well, our vaccinations, our vaccinations will get a student a 3-month exemption from being excluded due to being a close contact. So the vaccinations will get the student that benefit. I'm in favor too of if a student can provide documentation to the school nurses and the administrator of the building that they indeed did contract COVID, that natural immunity they have, I believe that should at least get them 3 months from being exempted from the quarantining, the exclusion when they're a close contact. Of course, they have to remain, symptom free during that period. So I would like to see the committee evaluate that and give that full consideration as well.
I think the guidelines
We're
have
also,
really,
What
We're
about
also-
antibodies?
Well, Dan, is that something you'd like them to evaluate too, whether the antigen antibody
Yeah, the
testing?
antibodies, what's the difference?
You want to see them give evaluation as to what kind of exemption status that might give them?
Yeah, it should be the same as somebody who's vaccinated.
Okay.
I think the
and
guidelines.
we're also from what I understand, quarantining students with no symptoms, and they don't have symptoms for the whole time that you're in quarantine. I think that we need to try to keep these kids in school, not get them out of school.
You got professional athletes that are back on a football field in less than 3-4 days. I mean, there's kids all the time going to this school and getting quarantined, and there's nothing wrong with them.
That's right.
It's ridiculous.
Well, and I know with the original HSP, there was concern about testing. So I wonder if those athletes are getting some kind of rapid or other testing and testing negative. And I know there were concerns about doing that on school grounds, but we need to revisit how people feel about that and where it might take place if some kind of testing would allow people to shorten.
Well, I think we should have voluntary testing. If a student and a family wants that child to be tested, then they can come into the school and have the rapid test done every morning, and the student's only delayed 15 minutes instead of 3 hours down at Med Express. And it's that's part of what ESSER's funds are for, to help mitigate some of the damage that COVID's causing, and we can keep kids in school by having our nurses do that swab test. So I think we want to have that as part of what the Health and Safety Committee reviews as well, as far as suitability for keeping kids in school.
We should have no testing on school property.
Well, the nurses asked for testing that would help to get the students back quickly. It will be free. It will be voluntary. Nobody would get tested without parental consent, but it would help. In the letter the email we received today from the nurses stated that there is trouble getting people tested so they can get off quarantine early. So I don't see anything wrong with putting it in the school. It's all voluntary. Nobody's forcing anybody to get tested.
No, if a kid wants out for 10 days and his parents are okay with it, I'm sad, but if that's what they want to do, I guess they can.
The thing of
Look,
it is
I'm
here
here-
is for myself and many others, we're just tired of this. We're so fed up with it. We're so done. You know, you can talk all you want about what the safety plan ought to be, and you got hundreds of thousands of people going to sporting events every week. You know, it's just enough is enough. It's time the school district gets back to what we're here to do. I am not here to be doing this. I've been doing this for freaking 2 years, and I've had enough. I really have. The things we talk about, the things we're trying to discuss and set forth is all for naught. If you think for 1 minute everything that we've done to this point is helping us, it isn't doing anything. That virus is going to do what it wants to do, and it's going to take out of this world who it wants to, period. Enough is enough, people. I just can't take this anymore. Let's get back to what we're here to do. Man.
You know, it was brought up, Dottie, you brought up that, and Dave Schemmel, you also brought up the fact that it would be voluntary and the teachers or the parents would have the choice whether their kids got tested. You and nobody else can assure parents that that's going to happen, because tell the parents that their kids got an adult dose of the vaccine when they was under 12 years of age. Tell the parents that their kids were getting tested in schools without their permission, and see what kind of answer you get. There's nobody that can guarantee these parents that they would have the choice of their kids getting tested. I don't care what school district it is. And I am not going to agree to have testing done in our schools.
Okay.
The parents need to take the kids. If they want to get them tested, they will take their child to get them tested.
Well, there certainly isn't anything that says that the parent can't come into the nurse's office with them while they're being tested as well. So that certainly is a provision that can be in place without a doubt.
Well, you got to remember,
Dave,
that
I have a couple of comments that I'd like to.
Dale Ramos speaking. Ron, go ahead.
That's okay. Let Dale go. He hasn't had a chance yet.
Thanks, Ron. That's the one thing I really find disgusting about this Zoom process. It's just not like being in person, and with my connection out here is slow. Anyway, a couple of comments. I would like to see the committee maybe look at what we're posting on the website. I really feel that there should be some appendix there that would give a listing of the Health and Safety Committee membership. I also would like to see the criteria that the district uses when decisions are made to close a building. I can research that. I've found that information myself, but when I go to the district website, all I have is I'll call it the updated plan that was put into play in July. With that being said, I'm listening here, and And basically, I'm hearing a lot of different opinions, of which I have my own. But I look for the committee to come forth with recommendations that I then, as a board member, can discuss and approve or disapprove. I would also suggest perhaps using a work session at which the committee would present its recommendations to the board. We could, have a discussion at that work session as well. But the bottom line, the committee needs to make its recommendations to us before we have this dialogue like we're having here tonight. Unless we put it into a different format, as I'm suggesting, maybe a work session where then the board members could dialogue directly with the committee. But my understanding is the committee is the body that is going to seek out the experts, use the guidelines that are given by the Department of Health, and bring forth recommendations for the board to act on. And of course, we can discuss as a board then those recommendations. But I feel like I'm spinning my wheels here, listening to all the different thoughts. I need to see the document that is being put forth by the committee. Thank you.
And Dale, our ideas are going to go back to them for them to evaluate, and they will bring forth a proposed revised health and safety plan that may or may not incorporate some of these things we've thought about. And if they don't incorporate them, they would explain why, that they aren't appropriate or legal or whatever. So this is our chance to give some feedback to them in advance of them meeting. If we wait till they meet and they come out with some recommendations and we find out there's things on there, there's things missing that, hey, I wish that had been on there. Well, then we have to go through it all over again. This is our way before they get to meet, say, hey, we'd like you as a board here, we'd like you to think about these things too and evaluate them, and then come back to us and show us what you have, show us your revised plan. We do have to approve a plan next month. So, that we've got to do. And obviously you can revise a plan as you go. There's nothing that prevents that.
That committee, by direction from PDE, was supposed to be a committee that had public input into it. That committee is so one-sided that the community isn't getting any input into that committee.
Well, identifying who the committee is will certainly help. And some of the committee members are on the board, so we read the emails too. We see that input, and some of my thinking is generated by the emails I've gotten. So, and I'm on that committee. So I don't know that's not 100% accurate, although that potentially is there, Ron, you're right. But,
Dave, yes, you are on the committee, but what I'm saying is there needs to be community members on that committee also.
Well, that's, what, I don't know why that can't happen either. So that's a suggestion that should go back then to the committee, and whether those members are ad hoc members or whether they become formal members. I don't know what the process would be, but I like that suggestion too. Even though
Dave,
many of the people on the committee are parents and things like that, I think you're right. The community members that don't have a quote unquote tie, so to speak, other than having children, I think that's a good idea.
Dave, who would I go to if I want to have input that might be considered by the committee? Is there a designated chairperson that I could convey to? I wouldn't have any qualms about just sharing some thoughts, with you and having you take it, to the committee. But I think that's one of the things that maybe Ron is getting at. It's just the community doesn't have access to that committee to give that input. If there was a collection point where any community member could give information to, and that information in turn would go to the committee. I think it might foster better relations, with the committee or with the community.
Well, one thing I am saying too, Dale, is that there needs to be community members part of that committee, not just to send emails to a committee member. They need to be part of the actual committee.
Well, right, and
And
kind
I-
of over the summer, I was a liaison and I thought that worked fairly well, but
But then again, Sue, you have ties. Everybody on
yeah,
that,
yeah, no, I
everybody
agree.
on that committee has ties to the district.
Yeah.
Direct ties. I'm
I-
not talking about
Yeah.
ties as far as community members. I'm talking about direct ties.
Right. Right.
You saw,
Now-
everybody saw the list.
We do have one person on there that's just a parent now.
But Ron, I agree. We will, that's something it's being presented here tonight, and I concur. I think so too. So that's something we will work on. Dale, with the publication of the list of the members, as an appendix to the plan, we can get the emails associated with those names.
I think you're frozen again, Dave, or maybe it's just me. It's just
I
me.
think this time it's your turn. So.
Mr. Schimmel, I'd just like to make one suggestion that we should have community members that are interested in being on that committee to send the board, send us an email requesting to be added to that committee, and see what interest there is from the community to be on that committee.
Okay, yep, all right. Yep. That sounds fine to me. So those watching, or those who will watch later, if it's your interest to be on that health and safety plan committee, let the board know. And probably a little bit of an introduction about who you are would be helpful, just so we're not picking names out of the blue. Okay, board, anything else any more feedback to the committee before we move on?
Yeah, Mr. Schimmel, David Young here. I'd like to touch on what Danny and Ron had spoken about previously, specifically the mask optional criteria that most, if not all, parents want to see right now. Having been just newly elected and being able to speak to hundreds of parents and children throughout the past 5 or 6 months, it's an overwhelming majority, at least 98%, that all want the mask optional. And for us as a board to not listen to that is a disservice to the public. So somehow, some way, we have to get to that point where we at least give them their say as parents to be able to mask their children or not mask their children. Now let's use some common sense in relation to this. Okay, we have a mask on all day. We go into the cafeteria, we sit down, we take our mask off, we eat, all right? We stand back up and we put a mask on. That air is different standing up than it is sitting down. It makes no sense. If it doesn't make sense, it shouldn't be applicable. I would like to see somehow, whether it's on the agenda for the next meeting or how we go about this, is to get a vote tonight, if possible, or if not, the next meeting, to make the mask optional immediately. Thank you.
That can be an agenda item for the next meeting. By the nature of it, I don't think it would be considered de minimis. So it's not something that the regulation that was passed in statute that was passed at the end of August or effective the end of August that doesn't allow boards within 24 hours of their meeting to make motions that weren't previously publicized on an agenda. And I believe that that type of motion would rise to that, not being legal. There was a time where that would have been okay, but the state law was passed that precludes doing that kind of thing. So
My
if
Mr.
you're,
Schimmel,
My
Mr.
understanding of
Schimmel,
that was it was financial in nature, and that is.
well,
the
that's
only-
more, that's one of them. That's one of the items, yes.
Mr. Schimmel, I think a motion like that could be under two categories. I believe it could be under de minimis, and I believe it also could be under an emergency motion. Because it has to do with the health and safety of the students.
I don't think, considering the health of students as a de minimis, the word de minimis means of minimum. I don't think the health of students should be something we consider of minimum. So I couldn't see it that way myself as being de minimis. And emergency wise, I mean, no one's died because they've worn a mask. I mean, so I don't know how we could frame it that way. I don't disagree with you guys on the masking at all. I'm strictly going at this from what the courts have told us, and I took a pledge to abide by the laws of the Commonwealth. And
It's not, Dave, it's not.
this isn't a statute we're following, but we've been told by legal counsel and we've been told by the courts that this has the effect of law and we have to abide by it. I'm not going to defy it. I took a pledge not to. I'm not going to defy it. And I don't know how. I can't see it any other way. I'm stuck. I would love to say make masks voluntary, but the law is telling me I have to do something different. That's where I am. I don't know where anybody else is, but that's where I'm stuck.
Well, it's number one, it's not a law, okay?
I know, I said that, it's not a law, but it has the full effect of law. David, we've been told that by legal counsel, we've been told that by the courts. So
And
how do I
a
get
lot of
around
things-
that?
So what are the consequences of not masking the children or making it optional? There are none. The state has not imposed any consequences or penalties in relation to the masking mandate, okay? So if there's no penalty or consequences to the mandate itself, then it's not a mandate. It's a recommendation. Okay, and you have seven districts outside of Montoursville School District that have mask optional. And we're sitting here as a mask mandate. It doesn't make sense. Again, we have to use common sense. And I'm speaking for the people that I spoke to during the last 5 months, okay? And their passion overwhelmingly, again, is to get the mask to be optional. If a parent wants their child to wear a mask, wear a mask. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? But if a parent doesn't want a child to wear a mask, don't make the child wear a mask. It's very simple. And you're seeing it, you cross the bridge and you see it, but we don't see it. I don't understand that.
And
Dave, what you
it's
don't
an illegal
understand-
mandate.
It is a community health issue. I understand that it doesn't seem right that they're wearing a mask in school, not out into the community. It's recommended that they wear it out into the community, and we don't have a mandate mandating that. But I also hear from parents begging me to keep the mask on. And in fact, even if we didn't have a mandate, I would push at the point we are right now with the numbers and the deaths. We had 7 deaths in Lycoming County just since yesterday.
How many of those were
I'm speaking, Dave. I would beg you to spend an hour in the COVID ICU right now. I would beg you to do that. And maybe the kids aren't there, but they are spreaders of it. So I cannot, I have to get on, this is my venting as well. I'm listening to your venting and I'm understanding what the parents are saying, but giving somebody a choice to go in and infect other people is not right. That's my vent.
And I heard your vent, okay? And I understand your opinion, okay? I'm telling you from my seat and from having spoken to hundreds of people, hundreds, they do not want this. And I'm standing up for the hundreds of people who said, I don't want this. You need to run for school board and get rid of it. And that's why I'm here. One of the reasons.
But board members take an oath to comply with all statutes and regulations. So technically a board member who votes against that can be removed. So it's a double bind. It's a double-edged sword, whatever you want to call it. But I assume the oath that took place before the meeting was to follow all statutes and regulations so that we can't serve as conscientious objectors the way an individual can, because we took an oath to the board.
It's not a
It's an
statute.
illegal mandate.
When the courts say that, I'm on board. When they finally say it's illegal, I'm
Right, the
with you.
minute it's deemed illegal in the courts,
Yeah, the Supreme Court just told us several days ago that this order is in place until they dispense with it or deal with it.
I think they're ruling tomorrow, aren't they?
Well, the court does meet tomorrow to hear, I think, oral arguments, but I don't believe that they will decide for a few days. So, I'm sure it's on their top of the shelf to deal with because they know it's a big issue, and then they will deal with it quickly. But I just can't get past that, folks, about the pledge I took to uphold the Constitution, the laws of the Commonwealth. And I agree with Dave 100%. It's not a law, but because it hasn't been disproven as it hasn't been struck down yet, I have to operate that it has the full effect of law. And that's the guidance we've been given. I feel stuck. I'm with your sentiments 100%, though, I guarantee you.
Hey, pre-COVID, on those 7 deaths, I'd be curious, were they classified as flu deaths, or were they classified as the deaths that happened because of, an underlying condition? That's the other thing too, is that where's the statistics on that? You have all kinds of underlying conditions of all these people that are dying, but yet at the end of the day, most of them are dying because of their pre-existing condition, not because of what COVID did to them. I mean, people, like I said before, this is just ridiculous. It's just enough is enough. And if we can't see the writing on the wall, then, so be it. I guess I just can't. We've run on here now for the last half hour, 40 minutes. And what did we talk about? We talked a little bit about health and safety plan, but we're more concerned about things that shouldn't even be. And along with myself and many others, like Dave said, we are just done tired. And we're not getting anything done. We've got so many things that we need to be discussing and talking about within our district, with our buildings, and things going on along with that, and with administration. I mean, there's things that need to be discussed about that, but we'd rather just focus on something that is irrelevant.
Board, I think we've pretty much beat the horse pretty well. So unless there's something more specific and pertinent towards a suggestion specifically for the health and safety plan, I'd say let's move on to the next item on the agenda. So hearing nothing, let's move now to the public comment portion of the meeting, the comment on agenda items. The public has, the residents and taxpayers can comment on matters of concern, any official action or any matters of deliberation before the board. Members of the public are provided one unpaused 3-minute time frame. And with that, I'll ask the meeting host to open up that chat window and allow the folks, the attendees, to raise their hand and have some time to speak to us.
Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Dan.
First of all, Dan Asello, 999 Weldon. I'd like to first of all congratulate Joe and Todd I know both of you will serve this board well and serve our community, and most importantly, our children, and work in their best interest. And I do appreciate that. Second thing that I want to bring up is that I saw on the agenda about the vote for the assistant position, followed up with the curriculum director vote. I've been advocating for a change in this since it was first announced. Due that our taxes are now going up, I think it's a good decision to eliminate that assistant superintendent position, bring in a curriculum director at an administrator salary who can take on other admin roles such as observations, helping with aligning curriculum, also looking at searching for grants to bring in new curriculum or whatnot. So I hope the board tonight does vote to get rid of that assistant superintendent position and vote on bringing in the curriculum director position, if I'm interpreting that all correctly. Another thing is the communication piece and being tied in with all of this. If you do get rid of that assistant superintendent position, communication still needs to be addressed from top down, all the way up from superintendent down to teachers and outreach to the community. I would like to see some kind of monthly newsletter, something. I've talked about websites where administrators can go to s'mores.com is just one out of several. That is a education newsletter format for administrators to be able to create these newsletters to push out to the community. And then in addition to some paper copies that can get sent out, but there's definitely something within the communication piece needs to be addressed. I have outlined some of that, and I've emailed a few of you in the past prior to election and whatnot. So I just hope we take all of that into consideration, and all the right decisions are made. And I do appreciate you guys listening to me. Thank you. You can stop my time.
I have unmuted. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Hi, this is Denise Clark, 101 North Loyalsock Avenue. I agree with what Dan just said. We are in great need of both a communication piece in our district and also with curriculum, especially with House Bill 1332 coming down with transparency in our curriculum. But what I originally raised my hand to ask was just formally, where is Mrs. Basin this evening? According to the posted board minutes that are online, she has not attended a board meeting since September 28th. And I sincerely hope everything is okay with her, but I'm just confused as to where she is. She did not attend the meeting in October 12th, 19th, or 26th. To be fair to her, no board meeting minutes were posted for November 9th, so I'm not sure about her attendance that day. I am just wondering, the board notified residents that Mrs. Basin met standards and objectives established for her in 2019 to 2020 school year. And I'm just wondering how that process really comes about. Is her attendance at board meetings a consideration? Teachers are observed both formally and informally in the classrooms, in action at their jobs. Are district administration members evaluated in the same way? there's a pre-observation discussion, a post-observation discussion that involves a self-reflective dialogue between the supervisor and the employee. And I just really would like to learn a little bit more about how our superintendent is evaluated, that if she's meeting all of our standards, yet not coming to at least 4 board meetings, how does that happen? I just really think that the public should learn a little bit more, and we deserve to know more about that process. To the point of in-person board meetings, we're holding sports events, we're holding concerts in person, not to mention we've been teaching kids in person, face to face. I've been sending my kids to school in person, since August. So I think it's time that we hold board meetings in person as well. Thank you so much for your time and for all you do for our district.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Brenda Oberheim, 192 Woodland Court, Muncie, Williamsport, South Williamsport, Jersey Shore, East Lycoming, and Loyalsock. And Williamsport, actually, even their employees are allowed to be unmasked currently. And it's either optional or parental consent. We're the only district in the immediate area that are forcing kids to mask. Is this retaliation because parents filed a lawsuit? I'm aware, Mr. Schimmel, that you've said, well, we have a lawsuit filed against us and we have a lawsuit filed against us. Is that the reason that you guys are choosing to not take the mask off our kids, but other districts are able to do it? So I would like you guys to examine yourselves and just see, is this retaliation? We don't care what you can't get past as far as masks are concerned, like, oh, I just can't get past it because, this is a mandate and I have to respect it. Well, there's a lot of other districts out there doing the right thing by the kids, which we have always asked you to do. So at this point, we really don't care what you can get past. So please have a vote on masks. Like I heard one of the board members ask this evening, put on the next agenda. Also, we don't care what the nurses are asking for. The nurses don't run our district. The parents are the ones that have the say. And when we wrote that health and safety plan, that's exactly what we didn't want. Tests or vaccinations given on school property. And here Mrs. Mathers is, and she would have both in a heartbeat. She would rush if we would say, yep, that's what we want. She would actually probably dance. The parents don't want this crap on school property. Mr. Schimmel, please keep the tests out of our schools. We don't want them and we don't trust the system. So stop trying to bring them into our schools. Also, we want to know who's on the Health and Safety Committee, who chooses the Health and Safety Committee. We want to know the suggestions made to the Health and Safety Committee. We definitely don't want a cherry-picked parental committee. And the one person that Mrs. Mathers said that is a parent on there has not been consulted in any way about the health and safety plan for a very, very, very long time. So you guys are pretty much kind of just doing your own thing and saying it's us in the state. But that's really not okay with the parents. We're done with that. So also, could Mrs. Beery please review the policy that says that a vote cannot be taken unless it's on the agenda? From what I'm hearing and from what I'm seeing in it, it definitely doesn't say anything about one can never be taken unless it's only an emergency. It actually has something to do with finances. That's when it can't be taken. So if you guys could either explain that to me or review it and see if there's an error in your way, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
My name is Nevin Weaver. I live along Route 87 in Montoursville. Got a couple quick points to hit on here. I hope I don't run out of time. First and foremost, I am blown away tonight, and forgive me if I misheard in the previous nights. Tonight was the first night that I heard anything regarding the COVID-19 protocols, anybody to have a single care about parental consent. Dottie Mathers mentioned about parental consent where the testing is concerned. I was elated to hear that. After months and months and months of fighting and joining these meetings and trying to speak my piece, somebody finally heard that parental consent is important to us. I'll take that as a win. I think going forward, I don't think mask optional is the message that we send across our district. I think what we do is we take a look at our exemption forms. To my understanding, there's nothing in the state order that requires a medical official signature in the exemption forms. However, we as a school district require it. I think eliminating the medical professional signature on the exemption forms would pretty much satisfy both sides of the fence. And, you know, the folks that wanted to mask their kids can, and the folks that don't, they don't. Secondly, I'd like to add to what Dan Acello said. I do not agree with the assistant superintendent position. I do think the curriculum coordinator is important and much needed. I do not think that the assistant superintendent is needed. I do not think that we should test or offer vaccinations on school grounds whatsoever. If a parent wants to have that done, then I think it's their responsibility to make the decision for their child and take their child to seek testing, just as I feel like us as parents should be able to make the decision as to whether or not we're going to mask our children. I personally have an 8-year-old son in Loyalsock Valley who suffers from severe asthma, but I can't get his healthcare provider to sign off on an exemption because UPMC officials were instructed that if they sign off on exemptions, they're no longer employed by the UPMC facilities. So I send my son to school every day. When it was hot outside, sent him to school in an unair conditioned school that got incredibly hot with asthma every day, feeling like a horrible parent every day that I dropped him off to that school. I felt completely powerless and I didn't have a choice in my child's health and safety other than to pull him out of school, which I think would be just as detrimental, maybe not as detrimental as sending him to school for 3 months with a mask on his face while he was repeatedly using his inhaler because his breathing was flaring up. I'd really like the school district and the school board to consider, let's not call it mask optional. Let's allow parental consent to make the decision on what's right and what's wrong for our children. That's all I have. Have a great night. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is Tina Marie Klein, 1009 Toole Street, Montoursville Borough. I wanted to speak to what Ron Snell had said earlier about in-person meetings and also having the option to attend via Zoom. I keep hearing people say at the meetings month after month, we do not have that technology. I am here to tell you that I teach at Penn College. I teach in the classroom and I live stream my class via Zoom and record it. It is absolutely possible. You simply need a Zoom account and you need an internet connection. It is very possible. I have a snowball microphone, cost me $25 on Amazon. This is very possible. There is no reason the board should not be meeting in person. They should be. Our kids are going to school. What's good for the kids is good for the board. And there is the ability to meet via Zoom as well to allow people who want the option to not necessarily be in a crowd to still be able to listen and participate and have input, which is their right to do as taxpayers and as parents. Second of all, I agree with the previous speakers. We do not need an assistant superintendent position. We are sorely in need of a curriculum director. Quite frankly, the way things are going in the school, it's just not a good situation. I see what's happening in the neighboring communities. And I'll be honest with you, 10 years ago, when we moved back here to Pennsylvania, we chose Montoursville because of the quality of the schools. Now I am second guessing my decision. I guess I'm fairly fortunate because my kids are almost out of the district. I don't have little ones, but I honestly have to say that if I had really little ones, I don't know that I would stay in this community because of how things are going and the lack of parental, consideration by the board. And I will finally say, I don't want vaccinations in the schools. I think that's a private decision between the parent, the child, and their healthcare provider. I don't think the school has any business doing that. And I will say 100% that if it becomes a mandatory thing, I will pull my kids out of this school. Thank you very much.
Hi, Sharon Meyer, Fairfield Township. First, I want to say I was glad to see the addition on the agenda of revisiting the assistant super position. As I previously expressed in meetings, this position is not in the best interest of the district. Only 2 other districts in our area have assistant superintendent positions, and they both significantly larger than ours. And we definitely don't need the additional expense of this position in our district. Of utmost importance is the position of curriculum coordinator, as previously speakers have stated. This role should not be watered down or distracted by having communication responsibilities. Our students and our teachers are in desperate need of a role that is devoted to most important aspect of our educational institutions, and that's curriculum. So I'm urging the board to vote down the role of assistant superintendent tonight and vote for a curriculum coordinator. Another main issue that needs to be addressed, which we heard a little bit about tonight, but not as much as we should have, is contact tracing, as well as the transparency of numbers of COVID positive and quarantined students within our districts. Our health and safety plan needs to be revised, and contact tracing should be limited to only those that are close family members to the student that tests positive. There are districts in our area who have recently revised theirs to reflect this, and I see no reason why we cannot. There are much larger districts in our state that have never implemented contact tracing at all for the school year and have not seen a rise of infections. They've placed the education of their students foremost. We have needlessly quarantined tons of healthy students in this district for weeks this year and for absolutely no reason. The other issue of transparency of numbers, the district has not been open with the COVID number of positives in our school buildings. Every other district in our area has been very transparent, and Toursville never has been. We have never received any numbers at all. I urge the district to start a dashboard, possibly weekly, so that the public can see this. Another thing is that talking about this mandate that we're following, the courts actually said it was unconstitutional. Had the governor not appealed it, the stay would not be. So I just can't understand why we're still following an unconstitutional order. I also want to address the fact that testing to stay is not the answer. If we update the contact tracing and make it so that these kids that are healthy aren't quarantined, we would have no problem. We'd not be testing on school grounds, and we should not do that. I also just spoke to a board member while we were having this meeting at South Williamsport, and they have not been reprimanded for being mask optional, and they have the exact same solicitor that we do. So I don't know how they're getting away with it and we're not. I also want to echo what Nevin said. I have even provided a parental exception form to the district. So if you can't see your way around of releasing this mask mandate on our school district, please, for the love of God, allow us to have parental consent. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, this is Jenna Girardi, 179 Old Cement Road. I just have a few things to say. I agree that if you're not going to give us mask optional, at least give us the exemption forms with parental consent, not with the doctors. It just makes sense. Every other school is doing it. No other school is having no high peak of cases. And it just seems like our school is still on this like lockdown fear of COVID, and it really doesn't need to be. Secondly, there should be no testing in the school. This is a school for education. This is not a medical facility. You should not be testing children. My kid goes to the nurse's office. He has a fever. She doesn't test him for the flu. She doesn't test him for strep. You call me. I come get him. I take him to the doctor. That is not your guys' job. She gives Tums, I think ibuprofen maybe, or Tylenol. Very limited is what the nurse does. And I do believe in a meeting before, you guys even said that the nurse and your staff were not medical professionals. So she should not be sticking nothing in no child's nose. Another thing I want to say is we do not need assistant superintendent. Many of us have already voiced this. It just seems like the school board is the only one that wants it. Besides Mr. Snell, he's always been on our side with it. And the last thing I have to talk about is the meetings in person and then the whole having it Zoom as well. I know myself, being 30, I am able to figure out how to do Zoom and have the meeting. I could figure out how to set it up. It is not that challenging. You guys have a high school of students who are far more advanced technology-wise than you guys probably are, who could probably figure it out in 30 minutes. It's not that challenging. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars to do it. You guys just don't look into doing it because you don't want to do it. I'm sorry, but in school, like the actual meetings, being with people there, it just needs to happen. Every other school is doing it. Other kids are doing optional with masks. We're the only ones like left behind, and it's getting to the point where it's just ridiculous. And like Mr. Young said, I believe it's who it was, we're all just done. We're seriously done. That's all I have to say.
Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yep.
Corey Flick, 315 Cypress Street in the borough. First of all, yeah, nurses don't test for this, for strep and the flu because they don't kill people. COVID kills people, hence the reason they test for it. It's amazing to me that we're still having this debate and the arguments about the effectiveness of masks, vaccines, etc. They work, they save lives, period. Optional masking, as evidenced tonight by the, all the comments we've heard tonight, optional masking allows too many parents to make the wrong decision, hence the reason we're under a mandatory mask policy. Additionally, Mr. Young, I didn't know they had virology classes at the Pennsylvania State Police Academy. So frankly, I don't care if you've talked to 100 or 1,000 people. None of them are qualified to offer their opinion on how best to fight COVID. Mr. Albert, if you're tired of dealing with COVID, then step down. Your number one priority is to protect the students. Giving up on how to fight this public health pandemic is not protecting the students and not doing your job. So if it's overwhelming to you, if you're tired of it, then step down and let somebody who would rather keep fighting have your position. That's it. Thank you.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? Yes,
ahead.
Mark Overheim, 192 Woodland Court. I would just like to say, I heard the beginning of this meeting where we were talking about, we have to follow the law of the land. And so many people have said the other districts in the area, many of them are going mask optional. And I remember listening like a meeting or two ago, Mr. Schimmel was saying, oh, we have to listen to the solicitor. The solicitor says that we could have a lawsuit on our hands. There has never been, and there never will be, a lawsuit about where you got a virus. It will never happen. So that's just fear mongering, just like this Omicron, just like the majority of all this stuff that Corey Flick sits and listens to CNN all night. But anyway, there's a lot of fear that we're trying to put onto the people from the board about lawsuits, etc. No, that's never going to happen. You can't prove where you got a virus. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, host, not seeing any more hands. Go ahead and close the public comment window. Okay, we'll move on now to the business manager's report.
You've received copies of the treasurer's reports for the period ending November 30th, 2021 for the general fund and cafeteria fund. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
Any questions
Move
or
to
discussion? Okay. Any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing no questions or discussion, then all in favor of approving the general fund and cafeteria treasurer's report, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it.
Terry, transfers this evening. You've received copies of the listing of invoices for the general fund and the cafeteria fund for the period ending December 7th, 2021. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval and payment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have a question, a couple questions. And it has to do with check number 61988 on page 2. A check to Visual Sound. My first question is, how many smart boards do we currently have in the district?
We
Sebastian?
we have smart boards in both of our elementary schools and our middle school in all of the classrooms. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but in general, there's one in every room, with the exception of the middle school that is missing quite a few. As we move forward, the new smart boards, I believe it's just over 100 or so to cover all 3 buildings.
It's 97 on that.
Okay.
Invoice.
Yep, you're right.
So,
well, plus we actually have 6 already, so 97 plus 6 is the total, because we prior to making this purchase, we had bought a small batch and allowed our teacher representatives to try them out and review them.
So this isn't replacing current boards? Is that what you're saying?
It is replacing current boards. It's also adding to any rooms that don't currently have, primarily in the middle school.
So current boards all went bad at the same time?
They are probably a decade old and have been needing replaced for quite a while.
Do they work?
Most of them, no.
Okay, my second question is, this check is for $194,697. That isn't the total price. The total
Right.
price is almost $390,000. I would
Correct.
think that for an expenditure of that size, it should be brought before the board for approval to make that expenditure.
I can't speak on the procedures. All I can speak on is that purchase was done with Esser's funds.
Oh, I know, and that's the answer to all these expenditures lately, that it's EASER's fund, and we are spending down that EASER's money where we're not going to be able to have any, we're not going to have any left to help the condition of our buildings. That's all I got.
I have a question, just Ron, I think there's a committee. Maybe Mr. Schimmel can correct this. I think there's a committee that decides where those EASER's funds are being spent, and that includes parents and community members.
I can confirm there is a committee. I am on that committee. Yeah. From what I have, if I could find it, is that it's going towards big things for the school. It's not only for things like, I forget what we're talking about. I went and got my glasses. But it's not only for those little things. It is for a much bigger purpose. That's really all I have to say.
Yes, and that bigger purpose would be to improve deficiencies in our schools, in our buildings. That's all, Mr. Schimmel.
Okay, alrighty. So there's no more questions or commentary. Secretary, would you do a roll call vote on that?
Mr. Albert,
Yes.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Dr. Beery, Dr. LaCrone,
Yes.
Dr. Mathers,
Yes.
Mr. Schimmel,
Yes.
Mr. Snow,
I'll say yes, but I want to add that these huge expenditures need to be brought before the board from here on out.
Mr. Ulmer,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Okay, and just for other business, we have the auditors here this week. They're continuing to work on getting the audit finished up, and hopefully we will be able to have that to you for the July or for the January board meeting. And that is all I have this evening.
Okay, thank you, Brandy. I move now to the superintendent's report, and by way of the superintendent's report, of course, the board has some email information we received, but also the administration. Now, this would be your time to update us on things in your building. So with that, let's, I see Mr. Myers in my upper left. So Mr. Myers, if you'd give us a report.
Good evening, everyone. We want you you're welcome to attend our holiday chorus concert tomorrow evening at McCall. 5th and 6th grade start at 6 o'clock, 7th and 8th at 7:30. Kids have been really working hard, and we're excited to offer that performance for you tomorrow evening. Next Wednesday, we have the band concert, again, 6 o'clock for 5th and 6th graders, 7:30 for 7th and 8th. Lots going on, spirit of giving in our building, not only with our students and faculty, but the family members of our students. Our student council has just completed a food drive with reference to our Hope for Harvest. And I want to thank the maintenance and custodial department. We donated over 500 pounds of food items to the local food bank. So thank you for their help, and thank you for the help from community members. Also, the Builders Club just recently had a Socks and Crocs Friday where we donated all kinds of socks to the American Rescue Workers and the YWCA. So the Builders Club has been very active this month. We look forward to a first dance in a couple years here at McCall on the 17th. That's for grades 5 through 8. Students are excited about that. And lastly, I'd like to thank you all for your service. And we have this mobile oil field learning unit coming in May. And we'd like to thank Dale for giving me the information on that. We have 24 units that will be set up in the gym, and kids in 5th and 6th grade will be able to go through that and actually see what workers in the mobile and the oil field industries go through. So thank you for giving us that tip. And we just want to thank everyone for all their help this month, and happy holidays.
And if I could just interject here, I want to say a special thank you to a former board member, Mr. Kevin Larson. Kevin was instrumental in getting that information and forwarding it through the foundation. And I was happy just to be a part of it. But thanks, Mr. Myers.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Youngkin.
Just going to start off with our PBIS team again, doing some great things out at the Valley. In November, we actually had 40 kids that saved up their pride points and earned the opportunity. We had a petting zoo come out to the Valley. So we had 40 kids that earned the points to go out and do that. And we have a bunch of kids saving up points for this month for popcorn and a movie. Mrs. Weiler has got our Peace Patrol up and running. They had their official training in the middle of November. Kids are up and using those resources that they've learned, those skills and that mindset of conflict resolution when things happening out on the playground and in school. I'd like to give a special shout out to our PTO through the Thanksgiving holidays and now getting ready for Christmas. They've done a lot of decorations out there, getting things looking really nice. Like Mr. Myers, we have our fourth grade chorus concert is going to be on Monday, the 13th at 7 o'clock at the high school. If anybody's available to come and check that out, it should be a pretty good night. Also in the spirit of giving around Thanksgiving, we had over 20 families that we provided meals for, and those were Valley families, kids in our school that our families we gathered food for, and we're in the process of doing the same type of thing for the Christmas holiday. And speaking of Christmas, we have a ton of things going on out at the Valley. We got the Valley Christmas tree up, thanks to Mrs. Hess and her classroom. It's pretty cool to see. They have decorations on there that kids have made as far back as 1983 was the oldest that they'd recognized. So that was pretty cool to see. Kids had their ornament day last Friday where each classroom made their own ornament to take home to hang on their own Christmas trees. And then we're planning on the 18th, a special day with our PTO out at the Valley from 4 to 6. If anybody can make it, it's going to be a meet and greet with Santa, hot chocolate, cookies, music, and a small fire out there. So if anybody's free to stop out for that, bring the kids out to meet Santa, that'd be great. That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Farrar. Darren, I think you're not showing as muted, but you are muted. We'll come back to you, see if yours maybe it's a setting in the settings, whatever. Okay, try again now. No, that didn't help. Okay, we'll move on then. If you figure something out, give me a shout. Mr. Tamina.
Mr. Farrar, you're gonna have to share that trick with me. So varsity cheerleaders received a bid for the National High School Cheerleading Championship with their game day routine. Taking third place in their traditional routine, took first place at the Universal Cheerleaders Association Pocono Regional Competition that was held Saturday, December 4th. The UCA National Competition will be held in Disney at the ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex. And this is the second time in recent years that they've earned this bid. The last time they qualified was 2019. I still have my ears from when they went. So congratulations to our cheerleaders. They'll compete the 11th through the 13th of February in 2022. On Friday, December 3rd, 7 junior students participated in the mock constitutional convention held at Penn College. That's advised by Mrs. Quick and was chaperoned by Miss Earl. MAHS students were assigned a state and had to write, propose, present, and debate a constitutional amendment. I'm happy to report that Christian Smith, Morgan Gower received top honors and a trophy. It's like show and tell here tonight. Trophy for outstanding delegation. Connor Imbro, Mason Lockley, Christian Smith, and Morgan Gower also received superior delegate certificates. So congratulations to our high school's delegation at that particular competition. And finally, you've heard about the many concerts going on. We are a best community for music education, and ours will be held December 20th at 7 o'clock in the high school auditorium. If you haven't had a chance to come out to one of our concerts in any of the schools, I highly recommend it. These concerts are free to the public. Our band will be performing in addition to the concert choir, the Philharmonic Vocal Ensemble, and the jazz band. It's a great concert. We are very happy to be back to a live performance this year, and it's a great way to get into the holiday spirit. And just for clarification earlier, the Philharmonic Vocal Ensemble was at the Montoursville Presbyterian Church for their holiday social. We performed some carols for that. And happy to serve the churches here in the borough. We have a great relationship with the Montoursville Ministerium in sharing services. So thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. And Mr. Farrar, we haven't figured out maybe what's wrong or needs tweaked. Okay, well, we'll next time around, we'll get it. And there's Mr. Hunter. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. Wanted to talk to you about, we had Mr. Laudenslager, the new emotional support teacher, started in his new position on Tuesday, November 30th. We were very excited to have him join our special education department. I wanted to publicly thank Mrs. Long, who worked with our students along with the McCall Middle School staff during this time of transition to help make sure that our students were taken care of during this time. So I wanted to publicly thank them all for their extra help and assistance during this time. I also wanted to update the board on the December 1st count and give you a little background on that. The special education December 1st child count was first collected via the Pennsylvania Information Management System, PIMS, in the 2012-13 school year. This collection is the unduplicated number of children with disabilities with a valid individualized education program as of December 1st of the current school year. The data collection is required by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Section 618. The data is also used for monitoring the programs and activities under IDEA, the non-fiscal survey of the Common Core of Data, and by the Office of Civil Rights. At this time, the Montoursville Area School District currently provides services to 296 identified students. In addition, the school district provides gifted services to 38 students and has 40 students with a 504 service agreement. I wanted to thank Mrs. Uvari for maintaining such accurate student records and efficiently submitting the December 1st child count. And that is my report this evening.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Ganofa, you have anything for us? Nothing tonight? Okay, thank you. All right. With that, we'll conclude the superintendent's report and move on to the agenda items. And you have your agenda items in front of you, I hope. So pull that sheet out. Okay, in the general items, we have item G1 is an approval to return to in-person school board meetings to be held at the Montoursville Area High School effective for the January 11, 2022 meeting. So do we have a motion on that?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions on that?
Yeah, the only thing I have is, can we see about getting it zoomed also?
Yeah.
If this motion passes? I mean, we've been talking about this, the technology for months now. It's time that, I think it's time that we do something about it instead of just talking about it.
Well, I'll disagree a little bit. I don't know that we've talked that significantly. We've had lapses where there wasn't anything said and then we mention it. But in terms of what it takes to hook up, the communications in the auditorium so that the board members, the secretary, everybody is mic'd, and then everybody would essentially either have a laptop that can interact with Zoom, or we splash it on a screen so we see what's going on. I mean, it's not as simple as some think it is. There's always that issue of feedback. And so we have to, I guess, test run the system to see whether those kind of electronic hiccups are going to occur. But we know that technology is out there, and it's not quite that simple when you have 12 to 13 microphones that have to be patched in and that don't cause feedback. So yeah, it can be done.
Well, Mr. Schimmel, what I mean about been talking about it for months is we've been listening to just what you've said for months from yourself saying, yeah, the technology's out there, but we might not have the technology and it's tough. That's what I'm talking about. It has been discussed. It's been discussed to the point where it's been denied every time it's brought up.
Well, just because one person on the board suggests it doesn't mean the sentiment of the board is to go that way. And nor have we had a motion to institute that. Or so just because you speak, Ron, doesn't make it a mandate. So please, it takes 9 of us, or at least the majority of us, to have that same sentiment to make it happen. So don't make it like it's me stonewalling it. That's silly. I haven't sensed the sentiment to make it occur. I know we can do it, and if the board's sentiment is to do that, I'm fine with it. But it'll take some expenditure to do it right. So if other board members are interested in weighing in and expressing any sentiment towards making that happen, I'm all ears.
How about this? Let's have it looked into and bring and our IT department bring it to the board. A proposal to the board.
Okay.
What his findings are.
Okay.
Would agree with
I guess that.
Go ahead, Zach.
I guess my only question then would be, how would that affect the student representatives? Because I know that at the middle school, we were sitting up with you guys. Would we be sitting up with you guys at the high school, or would we be down in the auditorium seats like we were last time? Is my only question.
Well, one definitely needs taken into account then. That's a good question, Zach. So yes, we'll take that into account for sure.
We also
Okay,
had a
thank you.
discussion when we talked about this in November with when the mask mandate, if it still is in existence, how we will handle that with people coming in that refuse to mask.
Yeah, so Ron, I know you and we were discussing, so what's your position on this motion regarding that?
Oh, my position is I mean, as much as I hate to say it, they're going to have to follow the rules that Mr. Schimmel puts in place.
So that if the mask order hasn't been legally overturned, I mean, it sounds like at the latest it's going to be January 17th. Is that everyone's understanding? But you're saying
well, it's like I said at the last meeting, Sue, we have to give our community a chance. And for us not to, that's just wrong as a board.
Right. I agree with you.
Masks, but we need to give them a chance.
Okay, I agree with you, and we can act together in unmasked right after the holidays if it hasn't been legally rescinded is I was going to think of making a friendly amendment to just wait till the January 25th meeting, because then the mask shouldn't be an issue. But if your statement is firmly, like you said, give people a chance to comply with the understanding that those in the attendance, if the mask order is in effect, will be masked, that makes sense to me.
No, I view this motion as one of the few things that the board president has some latitude on is on this meeting location. And let me step back for a second. I didn't make anything about a mask order. That was not my order to have all persons in our buildings and facilities to be masked when indoors. That was the Secretary of Health. The only question is is do I want to defy what is at this point is a lawful order, or do I wish we would comply with it? And I think we have to comply with it. Has nothing to do with fear. It has to do with, am I willing to follow the law? And at this point, I have no choice but to honor my pledge to follow the law. So if the board passes this, I will interpret this then as that it doesn't give me the latitude to make it virtual if mask order is still in place. So so board, what this tells me is that regardless of mask order, we will meet January 11 in person, period. So that's how I will interpret the motion.
But that also people refusing to mask understand they will not be admitted or asked to leave, or the meeting would be recessed or adjourned.
Well,
I just want to make sure we're all clear on what we're voting on.
That's the implication, Sue. You're right. That's an implication. What do we do?
Dave, at the organizational meeting, all of the 2022 meetings are set up for in person, correct?
Right, unless circumstances dictate otherwise, meaning is there a basis to go virtual?
Okay.
That's how I would.
So, you know, yeah, so I'm reading this, you know, G1, basically it's just a restatement of that in person. However, if the caveat is there that irregardless of where the mandate order stands, then I'm going to have to vote no on this, but I'm already voted yes for in person.
Well,
I just see it as, it's very confusing for me.
Well, this is a motion that follows that schedule we just established, and it would be a motion that would essentially overturn that. I believe the board has the authority to do that if they wish. The only question is, you know, I'm interpreting to mean we will be there, period, regardless of whether the moons fall out of the sky. We're going to be in the high school. So am I interpreting that right, Ron? Is that how I should view that?
I think this just reinforces the dates and times and for that particular meeting. If this motion would not happen to not pass, then you would have to advertise that the meeting will not be held in person, as was voted on in the reorganization meeting. It would have to be advertised as a Zoom meeting only.
I agree. Yeah, I believe that's true too. So for me, it's, if this is the board's will to say, you know, without equivocation, that we will be there at the high school on that January 11, 2022, regardless, period. You know, virtual is not an option. I mean, that's how I'm interpreting it. If this is just a reiteration of the earlier schedule we passed, that's a different story. So I guess I need to have a little clarity on the intention, you know, behind the motion. That's all.
I really would like to give Dave the option, depending on the mask mandate or numbers or whatever, snow, you know, if it's having a snowstorm, to be able to make our meetings virtual. I don't want to take that away from him.
Mr. Schimmel, I'd like to make a motion right now to extend the meeting.
Yeah, you're right. It's that time. Okay.
Second.
So, okay. Any questions about it? Board, this gives us an additional 30 minutes. Well, Ron, actually, we started at 7:30 on the, and we can extend now. We started at 7:30, and that technology issue knocked me out for 5 minutes, so we'll call it 7:35. So we can go till 9:35 until we have to extend, but I think we're going to hit that anyway. I agree. So let's go ahead. continue with this motion. All in favor of extending the meeting the extra half hour, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, then the meeting could effectively go to 10:05. All right, back to G1. Well, if it's just a reiteration, then that still implies there's latitude pending circumstances. If it's a hard, fast, no, we're going to be there, then the board just needs to know that's how we're voting. So, Ron, you're.
I say it's a hard, fast, we're gonna be there.
Okay, thank you. All right, board, in light of that, then probably should do a roll call vote then.
Ron, even if snow, like if snow and, well, I guess if school's canceled, is the meeting's automatically not held?
That's right.
Okay.
Roll
So
call.
we had a motion and we had a second. Now we got to vote.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brandy.
Mr. Albert,
Yes.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Dr. Beery,
Yes.
Dr. LaCrone,
Yes.
Dr. Mathers,
No.
Mr. Schimmel,
No.
Mr. Snell,
Yes.
Mr. Ulmer,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Okay, board, we will be at the high school on January 11th, unless the building is closed because of snow or whatever. So, all right, moving on then to.
Mr. Schimmel,
Yes,
just,
go ahead.
you might want to add that we'll have it in the auditorium. That way people can social distance if they want to. There's more room for them to social distance.
Yeah, yes, we will be in the auditorium, yes. Okay, G2, a motion for the Memorial Gardens Committee to move forward with renovation plans and fundraising for repair and improvements in the Memorial Gardens. That motion now could consist of one, approval of that project. It could also include a suggested amount of contribution if the board wishes to contribute towards that project that the Memorial Gardens Committee is advancing with. So right now, we just basically are going to approve those renovation plans. Or we're going to vote to approve or not. So the question would be whether we wish to participate materially, financially.
That's a separate question.
Yes, this has nothing to do with the financial part of it.
Okay, the motion.
It has to do with it has to do with approving to let the committee move forward with fundraising.
Yeah, but the motion hasn't been made yet, and we could tweak it before it's actually made if the board wants to. But all right, we'll go with the motion as presented, approval of the plan. So do we have someone to make that motion?
I make
I'll
that
motion.
motion.
And I'll second.
Okay, any questions? Would the original motion or would you be amenable to a addition to that to also stipulate a well, no, never mind. Well, I'll no, I guess I want to ask for approval of a amendment to that for a contribution of $25,000 from the district capital funds, and I make that partly because we are property owners there, and we do have an obligation to keep our properties in good repair, and those particular properties are the repair is failing, and they need attention, and the majority of the monies is going to be from fundraising from the public. But I think because it's partly our properties, I think we're obligated to help in the maintenance of those properties. That's why I offered I put that amount out there. So for the motioner, would you accept a friendly motion, a friendly amendment to add that price tag?
With you, Dave, but then does that violate the new policy 006? Because in effect, are we adding expenditure of funds to
Good
the
question.
agenda? So
Yeah,
should we
that's
add
a
it
good
to the
question.
January agenda?
Yeah, that's a good question. Solicitor, that probably doesn't meet past muster, does it?
Well, you're amending an agenda item. You're not adding an agenda item. So it is already on the agenda as an item. So it could be splitting hairs. If you really don't want to beg into that, you could certainly make it into the next board meeting.
Okay. Board, would you prefer that I wait till next meeting? Okay, I'll withdraw that, Dale, but next meeting.
Yeah, if I may, Dave,
you know,
I may.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dale.
I made the motion and I'm not going to amend it because I am very opinionated. I do not think that district funds should be used in this fundraising activity. I believe it is the responsibility of the Perpetual Care Committee to raise those funds. I just don't think that taxpayer dollars should be used for it. So I made the motion to approve the project and approve the Perpetual Care Committee to begin fundraising activities. That's the motion.
Okay, very good. All right, then. All right, so the motion as it stands now, any more discussion? Are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor of G2 as presented, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, G3, approval of a letter of authorization to secure E-rate consulting services of the Education Consortium, and we have an attachment to describe that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
Brandy, could I get a brief explanation on this? And also, this letter of authorization, is there a fee involved with this? Because there is no fee showing anywhere.
Sorry, I'm trying to grab it here. This is someone that Sebastian has been working with to do our E-rating. Sebastian, can you step in and explain this a little bit better to them because you have a better handle on the E-rate?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I actually had to step away for a second and I just got back. Ron, could you please repeat your question?
Yes, I'd like a brief explanation on this, what this motion contains. I have and I've read over the letter of authorization. I don't know what we're voting on here actually, and I also don't know if there's a cost involved because we have nothing in front of us. Is this a free service?
Okay, so what this is basically just a contractor that works with me when we file for E-rate funds. This is a contractor that we worked with last year. And basically what they do is they take all of our district information and they assist with the filing of the paperwork. E-rate is a very specific process where everything has to be done just a certain way, submitted at certain times in order for us to obtain those funds from the E-rate program. Those funds support the district in any network related upgrades or anything that we may have. Last year, we spent E-rate funds to upgrade our high school network infrastructure. This year, we're looking at doing 2 other schools. All that we are presenting to you today is just a paper that we signed saying that we are authorizing them to assist us with this process. If we are awarded the funds, and only if we're awarded the funds, we provide them with, I believe it's 5.7% of whatever we're awarded. If for some reason we are not awarded any funds, then we do not pay the consultant anything.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian. That explains it.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, then all in favor, well, did we get a motion on this yet? I lost track.
Yes, we did.
Okay, thanks. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, ayes have it. G4, approval of the roof replacement project for the maintenance shop at a cost not to exceed $170,000. And we have an attachment and had some discussion in the past on this. So is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Dave, I wasn't able to be in attendance to the meetings prior to this where you discussed it. I just had a couple questions for Joe.
Hey, Danny, let's get a second and then we'll go ahead and go with your questions.
Okay.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, being in the business, I look at that and scratch my head. Joe, you said that there's no rooftop equipment on that roof?
No, it's like can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see the green light. Anyway, there's just fans, pitch pockets, exhausts, stuff like that, like we discussed not too long ago. But it is a build-up, hot applied stone roof, just like the rest of the whole district.
Yeah, is there, just naturally for me to think this way, with that being just probably has a curb build up all the way around it, right?
Correct.
So what about like looking into possibly maybe doing like a low profile truss on that with a nice overhang, like a 6 or 8 foot overhang out the front to protect the garage doors, and putting metal on the sides and putting an overhang on the ends and putting a roof on it that way?
Yeah, we've never talked about an actual like building project back there, and we don't have issues with those doors. It was just putting a roof on, exact roof that's on it right now, just replacing it. I think that just was the easiest, and it was $100,000 back in 2015. Prices are going wild, and this is a not to exceed 170, but they're going faster skyward as the days click on here. That's why I wanted to bring it to you guys' attention as soon as possible. The material is going to be a huge problem.
Well, I like I say, being in the business, I look at it, at roughly, 42 square, at $400 a square. And that's, I'm just struggling with it because I can't, personally for me, I just, I'm not seeing it.
Well, commercially hot applied roofs are a whole new ball game. We don't, in construction that you and I have done, they don't put these kind of things on houses and stuff. This is a very commercial grade roof. You know what I mean? They're always, they're high dollars.
You still only have a 25-year warranty.
No, not necessarily. There's a 20-year warranty there. However, on a build-up roof, it does not get removed down to the joists on the second run. So it's technically a 50-year. They only pull half of it off and put half back down the second run of 25 years from now. That's something that I really didn't discuss with you before, but that's one of the reasons why build-ups are nice.
Now,
Joe,
regardless. Go ahead, Ron.
Joe, as was discussed in the previous meeting on this, I asked if we could get other bids for this job. And of course, you said you like this company. But you also said that, and I believe Brandy spoke up also, that there was no other bids submitted or no other bids requested, and that that you would look into possibly getting some other bids. Evidently, that didn't happen.
No, we started looking into companies. I had a tough time, Ron, finding companies in the area to do build up roofs. And my company did say they would bid it, but it would be, obviously it would probably be around the same price as what he said. But we wanted to bring it to the board, no matter what, Ron. It's all of you to vote, just to make sure, just like you said to Sebastian, that this large amount was brought to you now before these prices are going through the roof. And then I come back to you in August and say, I need $250. It needs a roof. It's leaking all over everything. We just have to make a decision. So I just thought we'd bring it to you, get a vote, and you guys, we could do whatever you want. Your decision, not mine. Just bringing you my opinion.
I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes here by no means, but when I do the numbers, I just, that's over $4,000 a square, a 10 by 10 area. It's over $4,000 for 4,200 square foot building. And when I think about trusses, low profile, trusses and putting an overhang and running that over, cantilevering over at least 8 feet over top of the garage, I just, from where I sit, I just can't justify over $4,000 a square, a 10 by 10 area. I can't. That's where I stand.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll move forward with the vote then. And sounds like we probably should do a roll call vote just because of the differences of vote here. So.
All right. Mr. Albert,
No.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Dr. Beery,
Yes, I guess.
Dr. LaCrone,
Yes, I don't know if that was registered.
Dr. Mathers,
Yes.
Mr. Schimmel,
Yes.
Mr. Snell,
No.
Mr. Ulmer,
Yes.
and Mr. Young.
No.
Okay. I believe it passed 6-3, I think.
Correct.
Okay. All right, moving on then to G5, approval of the board president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer as authorized signers for the following school district bank accounts for the remainder of the 2021-2022 fiscal school year. And you have the list of the district bank accounts. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Dale, I think due to latency, Dale, you actually said aye to no. You said you give a no vote. You meant to have a yes vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
My, My feed is very slow now. I hope I can stay with you guys.
Okay.
Mine was it was a yes to the first round.
Okay. All right,
I'll give a,
G6.
how about,
Yeah, that might work. Okay. G6, approval of a use of facilities request from Allison Stroop for the You Can Do It dance from Montour, using the Montoursville Area High School Gym on May 22, 2022 from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. There was an attachment, and do we have a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question for Brandy. We've discussed this in previous meetings for people, organizations that use our facilities to make money. Have we updated the cost for the use of facilities?
I do have something prepared to take to the admin team tomorrow for review.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. G7, approval of the 2022-2023 school calendar for the first reading. And you had your attachment.
move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. G8, approval of the receipt of Plan Con K. We had the attachment. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. G9, approval to renew the agreement between Montoursville Area School District and Sweet, Stevens, Katz, and Williams at an hourly rate of $130 hour to $200 per hour. And they provided an attachment, and so that varying rates, of course, pending the type of service. That is the firm that handles special education issues for the district. So is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
I just have one question. And I've looked on their paperwork here, their agreement. Where are they located? I know it's in Pennsylvania, but that's all I can see.
They have several offices now. My understanding they're headquartered in New Britain, Pennsylvania, which is in Bucks County, PA. The closest would be, city to that would be Doylestown.
And that's the closest to us that they have?
No, I believe they have an office up more towards you. I believe it's in the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre area, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Opposed? Ayes have it. G10, approval to waive an admission fee to a teddy bear toss event at the home boys basketball game on Friday, December 17, 2021. If bringing a stuffed animal to the game, so you bring a stuffed animal to the game and you get your admission fee waived. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none then, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. And turning our sheet over now to personnel. So personnel item P1 is a motion to rescind the vote to add an assistant superintendent for curriculum and communication position.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
The only thing I have to say is we need a curriculum coordinator, and we need to hire a curriculum coordinator, and that job of curriculum coordinator it is a full-time job that they need to concentrate on our curriculum and not have other duties that are superintendent duties.
Any additional thoughts or comments? Okay, hearing none, I ask the secretary then to call roll.
Mr. Albert,
Yes.
Mr. Badger,
No.
Dr. Berry, Dr. Berry,
Yes.
Dr. LaCrone,
No.
Dr. Mathers,
No.
Mr. Schimmel,
No.
Mr. Snow,
Yes.
Mr. Almer,
No.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Secretary of the board, the tally was?
It's 4 yeses, 5 nos. So it did not pass.
Item P2, establish the position of curriculum director. And I'd say that this could be done regardless of the previous vote. It doesn't mean we're hiring somebody. It just means we would actually draft a position description. It might be perfunctory, but so it doesn't have to mean it doesn't mean we go anywhere with it. It just means we could have the position description and have that formalized, because it's been 4 or 5 years since that's been done. So that, just because you voted no or yes above doesn't mean you have to vote no or the opposite down below. It implies there's additional work for administration to update that position description, but that might just be busy work. So just for what it's worth. So is there approval of those?
Mr. Schimmel.
Yeah, yes.
When I requested this motion to be put on the agenda, I requested the motion to establish the position of curriculum director and also have the job description in the motion to approve the job description. We did not get a job description like I requested to be in the motion.
Okay. So we don't have that job description. Would you like to bring?
I would
this
just
back?
remove this item.
It sounds like it needs tabled and brought back to the board as it was wished, desired, with a position description, right? You wanted us to
Can we
be-
just table it? Can we just table it? Because it really is moot at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, the position description doesn't exist well, it probably exists, but it's probably very old. So Davia, I think tabling probably is the best thing, all things considered. So are you willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to table P2.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I would say if we want to refresh this position, we need an updated position description like Mr. Stell wanted, and it's not there. And that's a discussion we can have with administration. Now, even if we bring it back to the board, say next month with a updated position description, and if we establish this position, that doesn't mean we go out and look. So it might be just busy work to have the administration do that. So we have to think about whether we want to have them actually do that. But we have a motion to table in a second. Any more thoughts on this?
Yes, I do have another thought. We cannot put the bid out or the search out for an assistant superintendent for curriculum and communication without a job description for that curriculum coordinator that's going to be part of that assistant superintendent. That job description needs to be in there first before we start looking.
I believe we do have a job description for the assistant superintendent for curriculum and communication.
We
That
do.
wasn't that in our last meeting?
Yeah.
Yes, we do, but it doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't have the curriculum responsibilities defined.
I thought it
I
did.
think
I
it
thought it
does.
had different subsections with each subsection.
Yes.
Yeah.
If
we table this, just send a copy of that job description to the board.
Yeah, let's move ahead with the vote to table this, and we'll get some of this information clarified for the board. So, so all in favor to table this motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, approval, P3, approval of the following leave of absence from a member of the professional staff. We have the employee number there from March 3, 2022 to the end of the 2021-2022 school year. Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second the motion.
Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, ayes have it. P4, approval of the following additions to the teacher substitute list for the 2021-2022 school year. And we see Alexis DeBrina for elementary K to 4, effective November 10, 2021, and Joanne Reeves, elementary K to 4 for lighter only, effective November 19, 2021. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion in a second. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. P5, approval of the following guest teacher list for 2021-2022. We have Anila Safter, hope I said that right, and Caleb McCumbee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. P6, approval of the following addition to the sports staff substitute list for 2021-2022 school year. We have for Kaylee Scons as a paraprofessional.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. P7, approval of a retirement from a member of the support staff, custodian Mark Guthrie, after 4 years of service, effective January 10, 2022. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, opposed? Ayes have it. P8, approval to rescind a date to rehire from a member of the professional staff, and that would be for Deborah Taylor in the art position of 17 years, after 17 years of service. It was an effective date of January 26, 2022. We want to rescind that approval date.
That's a re,
P9
Yes,
gives
yeah.
you a hint why.
that's a rescind to retire, not rehire.
If I said rehire, that slipped out. Sorry about that. Okay. So rescinding that retirement date, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. And P9, approval of a retirement date from a member of the professional staff, again, Deborah Taylor, the art position, after 17 years of service. The effective date will be June 30, 2022. And of course, she's willing to stay on till the end of the school year is what that's all about. So do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
I think I heard David Young approving and Ron seconding. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. P10, approval of the following resignation from a member of the coaching staff, Caitlin Scheck, from the assistant cheerleading coach, effective November 23, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. And that concludes our personnel items, and we're on to a transportation item. Approval of the Promised Land busing rates in the amount of $22.3406 and $23.6503 for November 2021. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye then.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. And in the academic section, A1, approval for a waiver of tuition to be granted to student 22220, grade 12, for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year. We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. And that concludes our agenda items. And with that, we'll move on to other reports. And Madam Vice President, you want to walk us through the other reports?
Okay, we don't have people for all of these committees at this point, so I'll just go through the ones we have. And I assume you will appoint for January, correct, Mr. Schimmel?
Yes, that's right. And actually, I think I know that Mr. Ulmer would enjoy very much being on the Memorial Gardens Committee. So, Mr. Ulmer, I think that was the sentiment I've heard from you. That's near and dear to you. Are you willing to serve in that committee?
Yes.
Would you
Be
like
glad
retain,
to. Thank you.
Okay, would you like to retain budget chair slot as well?
Yes, I would also be glad to do that as well.
Okay, and for new members of the board has we've been meeting as a committee of the whole. There really has been no budget committee meeting. Mr. Ulmer will visit the business manager, and they'll have talks and chats and whatnot. And but the board pretty much has involved themselves in our budget items through and through. So I would anticipate we'll continue with that method.
Mr. Schimmel, I also request to be on the Budget Committee, and I request to be on the Policy Committee also.
Okay, the committee, the Budget Committee is really functionally a committee of the whole. Mr. Ulmer hasn't set it up as to having a committee that has a committee meetings. So we really haven't done that. So it doesn't exist in that format, Ron. It's not like.
But it can be changed to that format.
It could be, but that's just not how the board has been operating. We've been operating as a committee of the whole, and Mr. Ulmer has just been a solo chair, if you will.
Mr. Schimmel?
If he chooses to function that way, yes, Mr. Goldman.
I would, if you're going to be making committee assignments, first of all, I would probably advise you to ask each of the board members to submit to you which committees they would like to be on, so that all 9 board members have an opportunity to at least express what their desire is. In addition, the term committee does implicate a body more than one. So it is possible to have more than one person on a committee. Obviously, a committee chair would be the person that would run that committee. But I think with each new board iteration, I think the board should be open to not necessarily just doing business as usual, but allow for the board, the full board to, especially new board members, to participate in one way or the other with your committees. That's just an opinion based upon your solicitor's advice.
Understand it, and we really have never had, I mean, in the 2 years I've been president, we really haven't had a separate budget committee that meets separately to work out budget issues with their own session that's been publicized and all that kind of thing. Budgets have always been the board as a whole. So that's why when I say chair, I guess technically speaking, it may not really be a chair per se, because he doesn't really preside over a committee. So he's a representative, if you will, you might say.
But he could, if there were other board members who were interested in being part of that process. I think that's the point I think Mr. Snell might be making.
Yes, okay. and that decision the last 2 years was made entirely by Mr. Schimmel to just appoint one person to committees, which that one person, since it is a committee, even though it was one person, it should have been meetings in public.
Well, if there's meetings.
That's the
we never called for a budget committee meeting. And again, the committee was the board as a whole. So when we did, have budget information, it was always shared at a whole board meeting.
Yes.
So that
the right of a board to meet publicly is contingent upon there actually being a meeting. There is no requirement that there be a meeting, but if there is a meeting, obviously it has to be properly done under the sunshine laws. But it doesn't mean that you have to have a committee meeting. It means you have to have one properly if you do have one.
Okay, Mr. Galtman, I want to bring up the point that when in the last couple of years, when Mr. Ulmer's been on the budget committee, the only person on the budget committee, when he meets with the business administrator to talk about the budget, that is a committee meeting, and it should have been done in public.
I disagree.
I don't think it's any different than any one of us going in to sit down with an administrator and just have a talk. And that's what it consisted of. It wasn't him telling her what to do or anything like that. It was information sessions for him. So to make it more than that that's just no, not at all. So
no, see, you're taking my words and putting them where I didn't say that he was telling her what to do. I said, when he meets with the business administrator to talk about the budget and what we're doing with the budget, that is a meeting, and it is a committee meeting because he's the only one on the committee. And he's the chairman.
I disagree because it's only one person. Functionally, it's an information session for him. You would be free to meet with the business manager if you'd like to go in and see her. So I just disagree with that. So if we have public meetings to discuss the budget, it'll be as a committee of the whole. Unless the board wants to, now if the board wants to make a motion to establish a formal budget committee and direct me to say, hey, Mr. President, please do this. Yeah, I'll go with that. If that's what you want, I'm okay with that. But just because the budget is probably one of the biggest things we do, that's why I've always wanted us all involved and all present at all those meetings when we discuss it. That's been my philosophy behind that. Not that a separate budget committee would make recommendations to the board. We could do it that way, but I've always wanted us all to be involved from day one with our budget process. That's why I've chosen to do it that way.
Yeah, and everybody would be involved with it if it's a public meeting.
Well, we do have public meetings,
including the public.
And it always
is.
It always is, Ron. It always is. It always is. There is never any private meeting of the budget committee, because the budget committee is the board as a whole. And so when we have a committee meeting, it is the whole board at a board meeting.
Yep. All right. Board, I know a couple of you folks, I know what you did last year, and I'm sensing that you would like to continue with that. So just send me an email and say, hey, I'd like to serve here, do this, I'd like to try this out. Yeah. So Madam Vice President, I guess we have, well, can you give us something at least on the PSBA as far as what you know to date?
Sure. PSBA, I just wanted to remind the new members and the ones that were reelected that you have mandatory training, and you did receive an email regarding that. For the rest of us, it's always good to go in there and continue our learning and our training. And if any of the new members would like to become the PSBA liaison, it is a way to learn what PSBA does and advocates for changes. So I would be willing to give that up, but I'm also willing to continue. Policy Committee, Dr. Beery, do you have any report?
Yes, so the progression of policy 006 here, in August, you had raised some questions about the new law with the procedure for adding agenda items during a meeting. I did some extra research. I drafted a draft that I added a couple sentences to that went beyond the law. And the solicitor felt that that went beyond the law. So on the January meeting agenda, it will be back to the pure text of the new law. And I can answer, I've done enough research that I understand that procedure for adding items during a meeting. So there were a couple iterations of that, but the proposed plan makes sense to me, and it will be on the agenda in January. The other thing in the queue is the bully policy, and I guess kind of like we're talking about with budget, we amended the bully policy to include what needs to be there in law, but there is some public interest in discussing possible ways that we might add some additional things. Now, I'm not sure Dave or the solicitor would that be done as a committee of the whole during a work session, or would that be called as a special meeting? A committee of the whole policy meeting at which the public could attend, especially people who have concerns about the bully policy or have things they want to bring up for possible inclusion beyond what's required by the updated law about the bully policy. So are there any feelings about the best way to do that?
Well, Sue, I was under the impression that
She asked me a question. The policy committee had 3 members. The policy committee was certainly free to conduct any advertised meetings in a public setting that they wished. Oftentimes, Sue, the policy was just refreshed and brought to the board for consideration, discussion. So, it's sort of, if you were going to serve as the policy committee chair, to a degree, your committee could either make these items a discussion for the board as a whole, or you could, as a policy committee, meet in a separate meeting, advertised public meeting in which you can hash out these policies and then bring a proposed policy to the board. I'll let that up to you, however you'd like to run that. If I hear you volunteering to be the policy chair this year, why, I would let that in your hands to see how you'd like to, pursue that. And of course, any board member can attend a committee meeting, even if they aren't a member. They certainly can be there.
Sue, I was under the impression at the last board meeting that you was going to have a public meeting to get input. I just want to say I'm even more concerned about strengthening our bully policy,
right,
due to some recent things that happened in our area. So we need to really reinforce the minimum. The minimum
Right.
just it isn't cutting it.
Right, I agree. And my priority was, I didn't know how crazy December was with the holidays, that, like you said, especially members of the public whose kids may have been impacted by this, so I guess, Dave, I would be leaning towards calling a special meeting held in public, and maybe, like you said, a public discussion of it, with then bringing something back for board approval that reinforces and goes beyond the minimum required by the law, is kind of how I see this unfolding, I guess, ideally to take place in January.
Okay. Then board members, if you'd like to, that policy committee is, we had 2 outgoing members that were members of it. So if you'd like to serve with Sue on that, please let me know. So, okay, is that all you got for us, then, Sue?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and the IU slot is open. LCTC, I've been serving as a representative, and I prefer to do that. I enjoy doing that. I like that role. So unless you really want me to drop it and you want it real badly, take it from me, why, fine. But I will volunteer to continue that. And just as an update, the LCTC. We're transitioning now this month to the new executive director. His current district will be releasing him, and so he'll be beginning in December to be our full-time executive director. We had an interim director who did a fair amount of assessment of what's in place at the CTC and has provided just a wealth of information to the new director going forward on what he needs to, I guess, continue or make stronger or whatever. So that's the transition is just about done. It's been a good transition, a healthy transition. So sorry, Dr. Mathers, I guess I took that over from you for walking through the positions. The Memorial Gardens, I guess we have Mr. Ulmer, that's near and dear to him. Of course, we talked about budget and buildings and grounds. Again, that's a committee that doesn't really meet. Danny has stayed in tune with things that are going on, but it really has never had a a public meeting. It's just been an information sharing thing he gets with Mr. Ganofo. So again, that's kind of like the budget committee. It's just it's been functioning as an information thing, or the budget chair. But if you'd like to continue with that, let me know, Mr. Albert. Montoursville Foundation, and Mr. Ulmer has been the representative there. I don't know that he wants to be wearing 3 hats, but I'll let him decide that. And then the extracurricular basically had to do with sports and school activities outside of the mainstream of the educational curriculum, and primarily sports, but other activities as well. And that person just serves as an information liaison. To really, again, is no formal committee. They can meet and discuss and get information from the administrators and administration, whatever. So if you'd like to serve in that role, let us know. So board, it's 10:07. We have to suspend our 2.5 hour limit right now. Otherwise, we won't get a second round of public comment in. So if it's your pleasure to suspend the 2.5 hour limit, I'll entertain a motion to suspend that policy of the 2 hours and half hour extension, which would open the door to the time we need.
Motion to suspend the 2.5 hour limit.
Second.
Okay. Any new members, any questions on that? We have a 2 hour, and then we allow 1.5 hour extension, and then our policies allow us to suspend a policy, and that suspension is only good for the meeting in which you're convened. And so once we're done tonight, then that policy goes back to becoming effective. So, all right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Mr. Schimmel.
Hold on, opposed?
Yeah, this is Danny Albert here.
All right, go ahead. The ayes have it. We can go till midnight, Danny, if you want, so go ahead.
Yeah, right. No, this will be short and sweet. As far as the building and grounds is concerned, I just want to bring up what I brought up tonight about, the maintenance building has no reflection on the performance of what Joe's doing. I know that, this should have been done in 2015 and wasn't. So if it would have been done in 2015, it would have been about 70 grand less. So with it not being done and waiting on it, this is what we end up with. So my work is residential, it's not commercial, but when you look at the commercial field, they have a lot more overhead and responsibilities that go along with that. And I totally get that, but I just wanted to make it known that if it would have been done when it was supposed to be done, it would have saved the district quite a bit of money. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, board, we're through the committee reports, and please, send me a note if what you'd like to participate in. And with that, now we'll move to the second round of public comments. So we'd ask the host to open up the window for that. And again, residents and taxpayers, you're afforded a 3-minute time frame, unpaused 3-minute time frame to provide comment regarding any of the actions, any proposed actions, any future potential future activities, whatever regarding the district.
Hi, yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Kyle Taylor, 172 Woodland Court. I just want to second what everyone before me has already said in the public comments, with the exception of Mr. Flick. I think the particular suggestion that the district accepts parental consent forms is a perfectly reasonable one and allows Mr. Schimmel to honor what the majority of parents want, while at the same time not putting him in a position where he feels like he's compromising on his commitment to obey the quote unquote law. With the amount of agreement there is on parental consent forms, I'm at a loss for what the objection could be that is still keeping us from going that route. The government has essentially taken on the role of an abusive father in the current situation. Now, he may not have been legally slapped down yet, but any small respite that can be granted to those abused, any protective mechanisms or workarounds that can be put in place, seems like a moral duty to me. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, Brenda Oberheim, 192 Woodland Court. I just want to thank Dave Young and Ron Snell for speaking up tonight. Also, Danny Alberts, and saying that this COVID stuff is just, we're beyond it now. We're almost to an endemic, and our kids need to be in school and unmasked. And the more that people just want it to keep going, we start to believe that they have problems where they want to fixate on this instead of getting on with reading, writing, and arithmetic. And curriculum is going to be very expensive. And I also, when you do hire a curriculum director, I hope that coordinator, I'm hoping that you choose very wisely and look over his resume and, all about even his social media to see what he's about, because what our kids are going to be taught, according to his choices and according to what you vote on, is going to be very important, because we have to protect our youth, because so goes our country. So I really hope that you make better decisions when you choose this person than some of you made when you voted tonight for an assistant superintendent. Thank you.
Hello, this is Kim Wren, 1105 Nicely Avenue. I just wanted to put a couple points out there. One, thank you, Mr. Albert, for making my point that the maintenance staff has been waiting for a new roof since 2015. And I hope that we can actually get them in a nice, secure place with their equipment where it's not leaking. Also, we had, and I apologize, I was in and out of the meeting tonight. I'm not sure if Mr. T talked about this. We had a fantastic craft fair event at the high school this weekend. I was very nervous going into it with the masking rules. I was worried about folks that wanted to come in and make a scene about having to wear a mask, and we did not have that. I think we had a great event. Everyone understood that that was the rule that they needed to follow to come in. And they did that. I only heard one person that was upset about having to wear a mask, but we said, this is it. And the person at the door handed them a mask and they wore it. So we did fine. One other thing, I attended some Easter meetings this summer after reading through that 30-page Easter's guidebook. And my understanding of the Smart board replacements that Mr. Snell was talking about is that those were originally budgeted. And since we are paying for those with Easter's money, that money can then be transferred to the capital fund. You can't just put Easter's money directly in the capital fund. So the Easter's money is paying for the boards that were scheduled to be replaced and paid for by the district, but now that money is being put in the capital fund to use for other things. Thank you guys for all your hard work, as always. Thank you to the new board members. Good luck. You are stepping into a wild ride here. And I hope you stick it out. Thanks so much.
Hi, Sharon Meyer, Fairfield Township. Just a few things. One, I guess I have to express disappointment in the fact that the revote on the assistant superintendent was not transferred into a curriculum coordinator. The other thing is I would also like to ask that the parental consent form for mask optional be put on the agenda for the next meeting. I think this is something, as the previous caller had said, that is a good workaround. I know I've previously sent you sample forms of what can be used in order to allow for parents to feel as if they have a say in what is happening with their children. And thirdly, I know most governmental agencies, when doing work as far as maintenance and everything is concerned, requires 3 bids. And this is, again, not on Joe by any stretch of the imagination. But I just, in the past few meetings, have been listening and have seen different things come up where it seems like we're spending extraordinary amounts on different things. And I'm just wondering if perhaps this may be something that the district should consider, is that there should be at least 3 bids on any item that we're spending an exorbitant amount of money on, whether it be smart boards, whether it be a new roof. It's just something to consider. I just feel like there's a lot of money that gets spent prior, to board approval, et cetera, that really should go out for bids, more than just one person bidding on it. Thank you.
Hi, this is Nevin Weaver again out here on 87. One thing I forgot to mention earlier with my request of the allowance of parental exemption on the mask form, I think that it would be something that's important that we modify the health and safety plan now, regardless of what the vote is tomorrow or in the coming week, to avoid future problems. I don't think this is going to be the last time that we're going to see a random order placed by our state government. And I think if we work to allow that parental exemption and we modify the health and safety plan now, this will be beneficial to all of us. 6 months from now, we find ourselves in the same boat. It's not even a topic for discussion. And like Dan had said earlier, Dan Alberts, we can focus on what's really important and get past the majority of the COVID stuff. That's all I have. Thanks a lot.
Okay, board, I don't see any more hands, so if the host would go ahead and close that window, and we're now, I guess, heading towards adjournment. So unless there's anything else for consideration for the board, thanks for sticking it out for the almost 3 hours now and 3.5 hours now, and that's just what we do. So we take the time we need. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So we have a second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, board. Thank you, public, for attending.